This week's episode of The Grid is sponsored by MPix. Shoot today, upload tonight, we ship tomorrow. Manfrotto, imagine more. onOne software that gets you back to shooting. Adorama, more than a camera store. Tiffin, helping create the world's greatest images. Peach Pit Press, publishers of technology books, ebooks, and videos for creative people. Epson, exceed your vision. Expo Imaging, Rogue Flash Benders for speedlight enthusiasts. Nix Software, photography first. And B&H Photo, the professional source.
And welcome to The Grid, everyone. It's Pete and Brad here today. Scott and Matt and RC, all gone. Where are they? Well, where's Scott at, Pete?
Well, let's see. Scott today is in Boston. He's doing his
Photoshop
CS6 for photographers. Thank you. You know that I have the attention span of a gnat. So he's in Boston. He's doing his class today.
Yep.
RC and Matt are at a workshop.
A workshop with Bill Fortney. If you can bring up Pete's computer real quick, it's this workshop in Monument Valley, Slot Canyons. So they're out there with Bill Fortney hanging out for this week.
What I love is it's called the Legends series with special guest RC Concepcion. Does that mean that like RC used to play for like the major leagues and now he's retired and they're bringing him out of retirement? Legend series. Anyway, we're a little jealous. They're out there taking pictures of gorgeous scenery.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And I just have to look at Brad all day. You are a good looking man.
I'm beautiful. Come on. All right. So, what are we doing today, Pete?
Well, we've actually got some things that we want to talk about, but while we're sitting here, we've got all kinds of stuff going on here. We've got Nancy. She's no longer in France over there, even though you can't see her where I'm pointing.
I'm usually where she is.
She's now over there taking Brad's place. This is kind of like a Chinese fire drill here.
Yeah.
That everybody's kind of moved around.
So normally we would throw to France, say bonjour, all that, but not
know
today.
that Nancy is over there. She's taking your comments. She's moderating them. She's going to be putting the comments up on the screen so we can respond to you. So please feel free to give us some good stuff, because if you don't give us any good stuff, we're just going to sit here and babble.
I think we might be about to see a shot of her if the camera keeps
Juan
turning.
is trying to work that jib. Oh,
keeps turning, and there.
There she is. Hey, that's actually a pretty good shot.
Yeah,
I like the light from the monitor. Okay, now the monitor to her right is blank right now. We need some good comments from you. I know we've got our friends out there that are thinking of some wonderful things, but send us in some comments.
So we got some giveaways today. We'll tell you how to win these at the end of the show, but our friend Alan Hess has this wonderful book called All Access, Your Backstage Pass to Concert Photography. I love this book. Why? Because I'm in it. But
oh my God.
No, it really is a good book. Everybody all the reviews that I've seen are great. So he's giving this away. It's going to be a signed copy. And he has another book called the Night and Low Light Photography Workshop book. So he's going to be signing both of those, giving them away to one person. And then we've also got another giveaway from...
we've got another giveaway from... Sorry, I'm reading... Guys, you're just going to have to bear with us today, because this is going to be the ADD thing. Usually, if I'm on here or Brad's on here, somebody else is here to rein us in. We're in trouble today. The other giveaway is the onOne Perfect Photo Suite 7. Now, I must tell you that I really like this new setup with Photo Suite 7. They've done some neat stuff. The black and white, the portrait stuff in there is really good. So go check out onOne Photo Suite. Even if you don't win today, go check out Photo Suite 7. You got a 30-day trial. See what they've got in there. Just the retouching and the black and white alone are going to be able to increase your efficiency, and that's what it's all about.
Now, our buddy Brian Matias, didn't he do some videos kind of showing the new features and stuff?
Yep. Good call. Way to feed it right back into the NAP website. If you're a NAP member, and you should be a NAP member, go over and check out, and twice last week and the second one this week, so a total of 4, is going to be posted tomorrow on the website. So you can go see the ins and outs of the new stuff in Photoshop, Photo Suite, Photo 7 on the NAP website, so you can definitely check that out.
And then Matt, who's not here, he actually had a fun experience. He was at NAP headquarters, and he wrote a blog on mattk.com about how he got smoked in a retouching contest with onOne. So he talks about going out there and just kind of being like, well, yeah, I know about all the plugins and all that, but I'm a pro. I like to do it the hard way, you know, do it the real way, not the easy way. That's a cop out. So they're like, oh, really? Okay, well, let's have a competition. Let's do this. So, of course, you know, the software was so awesome and powerful that it kicked his butt. So if you want to go read about that experience over on mattk.com, you can do that.
Well, it is definitely interesting to see, because I oversee the NAP website, so I see all the comments and the questions, and you get people in there that'll go, wait a minute, can't you do all this in Photoshop? Why are you showing me plugins? Well, the truth of the matter is, we're artists, we're workers, and if I can do anything to the same degree faster, I want to use it. Most photographers nowadays, if they're doing anything with photography or whatever, probably has at least one go-to plugin that they're going to. So you definitely need to check out this from onOne. It's great, and we're giving away a free one at the end of this.
Yep. So right now we're going to go to break, get a word from our sponsors at Kelby Training, and we'll be right back.
Way to go, Brad.
I try.
Hello, my name is Lindsay Adler, and I'm a portrait and fashion photographer based in New York. Here in New York, it is filled with creative, passionate people. There are makeup artists, hairstylists, wardrobe stylists that love what they do. In fashion, there are no rules. It's all about your creativity. So when I'm doing a fashion shoot, I can focus on the lighting, on the models, on the poses, and instead I have everybody else adding their own creative contributions. It's whatever vision I have in my mind, I can make it a reality.
When bad weather strikes and threatens your next outdoor shoot, you need the experience. The experience of a photographer that can handle any situation.
Get your hair out of your eyes! Come on!
The experience of Joe McNally.
Bad weather doesn't mean you can turn in a bad shoot. It's really bad weather out here, Harry! I'm not gonna leave this dock without a picture.
Trust Joe to teach you the tips you'll need to capture stunning photos even when the weather turns ugly.
Anybody there see the sun? I don't.
Don't let bad weather ruin your next...
I'm happy again. What am I supposed to out here? Sing a chorus of I Feel Pretty?
Don't let bad weather ruin your next photo shoot.
Telling people what is perfectly obvious, that the weather sucks!
Rely on Joe McNally to help you weather the storm.
The miracle of photography visits us again. We are...
Learn how to take great photos in bad weather. Watch Joe McNally.
Whoa, was that the same cow?
No, I want you to bring back in. Oh, okay, I'll bring it back in. Guys, welcome back. We're The Grid. We are here, and we're excited that we just promoted the idea that we can give you Photo Suite 7 as a contest prize, and the very first commercial that pops up is Photo Suite 6. So, you know, we got that all in a row.
Perfect.
So, perfect Suite 6.
But the other two commercials you saw there were actually from our sponsors, Kelby Training, and the first one was, Lindsay Adler, Conquering, sorry, it's right there. I don't need to be looking at it. Conquering Midday Light. It's actually a really awesome class. I just watched it yesterday. She shows, you're out there in the middle of the day, really terrible light, but she shows how you can make beautiful pictures using just diffusers and reflectors. She doesn't even actually use any lights, I don't think. Then the one after that was Joe McNally's Making Great Photos in Bad Weather. That has gotten really, really good reviews.
Well, the commercial alone is awesome.
The commercials.
The guys, the video guys here do a phenomenal job with that. And if you haven't checked out Kelby Training, make sure you go check it out. We sit here, even though we work here and stuff, it's such a bonus to be able to go check out all these things. You know about concert photography, but you may not know about shooting football.
Right.
So next thing you know, you got Dave Black teaching about that. I've learned so much just being able to go check out Kelby Training because I work here. I love it.
So anyway, today's topic.
No, Kevin Halliburton, the best topic question does not win Photo Suite 7. Besides, you've been talking too much about horror movies on the thing. We're paying attention to the comments because normally it's Brad, Nancy, and I all taking comments and looking at them. So we're doing kind of an ADD multitasking. So I'm watching you, and I'm especially watching you, Kevin Halliburton, because you've got to be watched.
So Pete.
Okay.
Your experiences in the photo industry. What did you get started in with photography? Like, what got you into it, and what have you been doing since, between your start and now?
Well, before I do that, I have a note here, and I'm going to try to stay on task. Here's a little tip for you from Juan, the jib operator over there. Juan, give us a little nod on the jib there. Yes. Juan said he wanted to remind you of you folks in the U.S. that if you have dealt with daylight savings time, remember to change your camera time setting because that could catch you later on. Especially video a lot of times has to deal with that more than just your regular photographers. But don't forget, we just hit daylight savings time, or are we back to normal time? I can't even remember. But make sure you adjust your camera, your clock on your camera.
It gets dark earlier, so whichever one that one is. So, you.
Well, here's the thing. I went to college. I got a fine arts degree at college, and during my studies, I started dealing with photography and dark rooms and stuff like that. So I got to play in the dark room. And that was great. The only problem is once you graduate from college, you lose all that good equipment and stuff that you have.
Yep.
And so there was a time in there where I was definitely doing photography, but it was more like I would go out and take snapshots here and there. And I'm really sad that I didn't develop more skills when I moved over to Thailand. I lived in Thailand for 6 years, and what a target-rich environment for photography. Now, I did a lot of stuff. I was shooting photography for our organization and different things like that, but I would say my skill was just so-so. Well, when I moved back to the States, was about the time the transition to digital came into play, and that made a big difference because then the problem with film cameras was you kind of had to keep records if you're trying to learn stuff.
Right.
You had to write down, well, I shot this, I did that. And for those of you who have watched this, you realize I can't remember what I said 30 seconds ago, much less what settings I had on my camera when I took that picture. So now digital comes in, and it opened up a whole new world for me because I got the instantaneous feedback. And so I started doing more and more of practicing. But the thing that I did that I think maybe backwards to some people is I said, listen, I want to make sure I am really confident in what I'm doing before I ever hang out a shingle and say, I'm a photographer. Some of it comes down to being, a little bit insecure or whatever, but I wanted to, if I was going to say, hey, I'm a professional at this, I wanted to be able to know that I could tackle anything that you threw at me. So my career of growing in photography really was a journey of setting up situations that I could photograph, mostly for my family, for people that I knew around me. And I practiced a lot when there wasn't the pressure of having to perform. Because I think nowadays people get that camera and say, hey, I can do this, I can put it in auto mode or whatever, and they go out there and they take the pictures. And as long as everything works out, they're getting some great pictures. But I think the true sign of a professional is how do you handle when things mess up.
Right.
That's why I love Joe McNally in that class, the bad weather class. Joe is the master of taking a situation. He walks in, we're going to shoot this. He gets there. Oh no, that's not how
that
it
wasn't
is.
even supposed to be. That wasn't even the class he had planned to film when he came down here. And when you get into that situation and there's nothing you can do about it, you just roll with the punches and make the best of it. And that's what sets Joe apart from the basic amateur. So, but you've gotten into a lot of kind of family portraiture, and that's everything from weddings and children and portraits. Like, so how did you kind of get into that, and what are a few pieces of advice that you would give somebody who's trying to hang out their shingle in that area?
Well, I think one thing that helped me was that I was involved, for those of you who don't know, I was actually a missionary in Thailand for 6 years with a Christian organization. And we had a group of folks that all had kids and stuff around the same time. So I kind of had a group of folks that I could practice on. And plus I have 4 kids of my own, so it was natural just to be out there. I've got my kids, let's shoot them. They're tired of me pulling out the camera. But I had a nice, once again, target-rich environment that I could practice on. And I think that's key for any of us when we're learning, is to figure out what we have around us that we can practice on. I hope Monaco Javier is watching, because he's posted some stuff before. He's a grid watcher, and met him in Washington, D.C. at the Photoshop
World.
Photoshop World, yeah, there you go. And what he does is he's practicing, last year he was practicing studio lighting. Well, he didn't have models that he was just bringing in all the time, so he used a stuffed animal to practice. He had that, and he said, I'm going to learn how to do all this with a model before I ever bring a person in. And that was kind of, for me, it kind of happened out of, man, there are a bunch of kids around. I better start learning how to shoot them, because my wife kind of wants to have some good pictures.
Sure.
Grandma and grandpa. And so it was a natural progression for me to do that. Now, if we talk about things like, I love to shoot sports and stuff like that, and that kind of was because I always played sports. That was a natural gravitation. But as far as learning, it started out in a lot of ways just by shooting my family in extended
learning by doing.
Yeah.
Cool. So there were some questions that came in when I posted about the show yesterday on Google Plus, and there were some questions that came in about assisting and kind of the difference between, like, what's the difference between an assistant and a photographer. And I think that a lot of people, like, you kind of started by doing, learning by doing. And a lot of people know that I started out working with Joe McNally as his assistant. And I didn't know anything whenever I started with him, but one of the best pieces of advice that he gave me whenever I was working for him, after I'd worked for him for a while, I knew going in I didn't know anything. I was like, why did you hire me when you could have hired somebody who had years of experience? There are photographers that have been out there for 10 years that would love to work with you. And
he's probably still asking himself that question.
No. But he said, I can teach you all the technical stuff. I can teach you about all the light stands, the soft boxes. I can teach you all that stuff, but I can't teach you attitude. And I thought that spoke volumes to just how he can see something in somebody and pull that out of them. And so in a way, I started learning by doing, but by working with somebody who knew what they were doing.
Well, I think that's a great point when we're talking about being an assistant. Being an assistant is entirely different from being the main shooter.
Yeah.
What would you say the biggest difference is?
The thing that, because I've recently started trying to get a little more into doing portraiture on my own, and obviously I've worked with Scott for 4 years now, and loved every minute of that, and now I'm trying to get out there and doing it on my own a little bit. And the first thing that I realized was I just called up a buddy of mine and said, hey, can you come into the studio later this evening and just kind of hang out and be a subject for me? And he's like, yes, of course. So the minute that he got here, or before he got here, I was trying to figure out how I wanted to do the lights. And the hardest thing for me was, where do I put it? And, I harken back to what I've learned and everything, but there's a huge difference between getting to a shoot and, being told by the photographer, hey, here's how we're going to do this. Here, put this light here and put this softbox over here, versus being the one making that decision. And so I think that, obviously by being around all of this for 6 or 7 years now, like, I've got a pretty good inkling of where to start, but just having that pressure on you of being the one that drives the shoot, it's a totally different ballgame. So,
well, would you also, I was just thinking about some of the times where I've been the assistant. I started out shooting weddings by just I was actually the third assistant. There was the second assistant and the person who let me come along as a third assistant. Basically, I could just run around and do whatever I wanted. That was awesome to be the third assistant. Mm-hmm. Second assistant actually has, or the main assistant has a lot more to do. But there's really a different mindset between being the main shooter and the second assistant, or the assistant, because everything's on the main shooter. But I've also seen people who have come in and they say, hey, I want to learn. I'd love to be the assistant of so-and-so, fill in the blank. But they come in thinking that they are going to be a peer with that main shooter, or they're going to bring stuff and help out that main shooter. But an assistant, some of the best assistants I've seen are really servants at heart. Yeah. And I think if you want to get into a new area, say you want to go shoot sports or you want to go shoot weddings or whatever, the very first thing you have to do is check your character and your attitude, because a first shooter, if you're the one that's in charge, you can kind of be all over the place and this is my way or the highway. If you come in and come work for anybody, you have to sublimate your attitude to serve them, and that means give them the best shot, make sure they have all the angles, make sure they have everything they need. And that's, you know, right away, anybody that knows Brad knows that he is a servant. He is a person that cares about other people. And I know, I can tell exactly why Joe hired you, because you truly do want Joe to succeed. Yeah. And most of the time, assistants nowadays come in and they want to succeed as an assistant so that they can become the number one guy. Where the really good assistants, the ones that really learn and have a long standing with the person they're working with, are those that want to see the person up front to succeed.
And obviously, after you've worked with somebody for a while, you kind of, you can anticipate their every move, basically. And Scott says now, he's like, anytime that we're starting off with a photo shoot in here and I ask what to set up, 9 times out of 10 it's either going to be a beauty dish or a midi-octa. Right. Those are just 2 of his favorite modifiers, and that's usually kind of the first go-to things. But I know that I can speak to what you were just saying, because Pete here helped me out on a photo shoot a couple months ago, 2 or 3 months ago now, and I was a little hard on him, and I didn't realize it until after the fact, just because we were kind of in the middle of everything. But after it was over, I asked him, like, how was it for you? Because I'm used to being in that assistant role, but then whenever I get into the photographer role, it's a different mindset, and I'm not even realizing that I'm snapping my fingers at him.
It was a different Brad, and it's funny because same thing. RC and I shot a wedding together. We shot Jen, who used to be here with us. We shot her wedding. And that's an interesting thing to think about. RC and I both have our own style, our own history of shooting. And so it kind of came that we were co-main shooters, and it worked out okay because we found out, okay, RC likes to shoot wide and capture everything and get into the middle of it. Mm-hmm. And I tend to like to be that sniper that zooms in from a distance and get those nice up-close shots from a distance, and it worked out really well.
That's so similar to your Call of Duty playing styles.
Exactly. I'm a sniper, and RC runs around with a flamethrower. But the thing is, there has to be a relationship there. Yeah. And so many people are thinking, I'm just going to be this guy or that guy or work with this guy or whatever. It really comes down to having a good relationship.
Yeah. Well, and that's, whenever you have that change of mindset and that change of role, you have to step back and go, okay, this person, I'm used to being that person, but they're not me. Like Pete's obviously, well-versed in photography and everything, but, he may not be used to setting up the exact same softbox that I'm used to setting up. And, where I can maybe do it in a minute, it takes him a little extra time.
Well, that's what
impatient.
Frustrated you. You were so used to setting it up. You know everything to do, and you asked me to do it, and I'm setting it up, but I'm not doing it quite the way you are.
So,
let me ask you a question. Here's a philosophical question.
Okay.
Are the people that are geared to be an assistant? I mean, are you more comfortable leading or being an assistant? And I'm not saying as far as talent or anything, because everybody's got a different role. But for your own personality, are you more comfortable helping out or being in the front?
Well, I think today's a perfect example of that, because I'm here under the lights and sweating a little bit. I'm somewhat nervous because I'm just not used to it. I'm used to being over there. I'm used to being around this, but not the focus, not the center of the attention. So I think because I'm used to being the assistant, I'm used to being there and helping out and not not kind of the main person, but around the main person. But it definitely, and I think that's part of the reason that I've been so, I guess, kind of hesitant / lazy about getting out there and doing portraiture on my own, because I'm used to being told what to do, but not making the decisions of what to do. And I'm kind of nervous about doing that. So that's kind of a little confession there, but.
Well, that's a great point to think about. If, in some ways it could be easy to go, okay, I'm used to doing this, I'm going to hang back. Mm-hmm. But when do you make that move and go, okay, I'm going to step out and do it?
Yeah.
And if anybody's got that answer, please mail it to Brad Moore.
Well, you just have to do it, because otherwise there's no way to get used to doing something if you don't do it. So.
Oh, by the way, in the comments here, would y'all quit talking about glue, because I'm getting distracted. Alan Hess, I blame you. I'm going to steal this book. I'm watching you. I'm going to sign all your books.
Let's take a couple of questions here. I think this one from Brandon Jacoby is a good one. He asked, I would love to hear if you guys have any advice on where to find people to shoot for me. Most people don't trust some teenager, and I often don't get taken seriously when trying to set up a shoot with someone. And to that, I would say kind of the obvious example here is Joey L. And, he's a young guy, still is to this day a young guy, but started out, 4 years ago, I guess, if not earlier. And I mean, he's only 21 or 22 now. So I think that it's not so much trying to convince someone to shoot for you or shoot with you as going out and making work that will convince them on its own. I know it's that whole, you can't, you're not going to hire somebody unless they have 3 to 5 years experience. But how do you get that experience? It doesn't matter who you're shooting. If you shoot your parents, your siblings, your aunt and uncle, whatever, just get somebody in front of your camera and treat them like you would treat any other client. And just treat it like a real shoot. Give yourself that assignment of, well, I'm doing this shoot for X magazine, whatever magazine you want to shoot for, or commercial job, whatever. You have to give yourself that assignment and treat it as if if you don't do this right and do it well, you're not going to get the payday. And just start doing that. And then once you have something to show people, you can say, look, I'm not just this little kid. I'm the real deal. And then they're going to be like, dude, he's good, because you are good.
Yeah, I think for those of you that were at Photoshop World in Vegas, RC did a great thing, talk about bridging that gap or closing that gap. Let your work be what people see that then takes you beyond how old you are. Because until they know that you are really serious or whatever, the first thing they're going to do is go, he's just a kid or whatever. Kevin Halliburton actually got off the glue for a subject for a minute there and said, having a great assistant is like having the sky open and a PPA certified angel descend on your photo shoot, but nobody notices them except you. Yeah, it's true. It makes all the difference in the world if you can trust somebody to handle the things and delegate it.
Yep.
To be able, for my instance, if I've shot a wedding and I've had a second shooter that is somebody that I've never shot with, the whole time I'm shooting, I'm not only thinking about me, but I'm worried about what they're doing.
Yep.
And are they getting it? Whereas when I'm shooting with somebody, I have a friend, Carrie Jo Pinkert. She is Texture Photos. Hey, there's a little shout out to you. We've shot several weddings together, and we've gone back and forth. One of us was the lead, one was second, and gone back and forth. And I always knew that if I didn't get the shot, she was going to be there and get the shot. And the freedom to be able to shoot my way and know that she's got my back, or vice versa, was so good. Whereas sometimes I've had people go, hey, I'd love to shoot with you. And it's like, man, I spend all my time just focusing on what they're doing instead of actually getting the shot. And sometimes it's not even worth it to have an assistant if they're not in sync with you.
Right. And, with weddings, a lot of times your assistant is shooting with you. But for most, portrait or commercial shoots, it's the photographer, and then they have, at least one assistant. If not, sometimes Jeremy Coward will have 3 or 4 assistants, or even, Joe or whoever, they'll have more assistants. But I've been on shoots where the photographer's been working with an assistant they haven't worked with before, And you can see the worry start to form on their face whenever out of the corner of their eye, they see the assistant doing something that they're not supposed to be doing or trying to figure something out because they don't know what they're doing. And it just adds extra weight and worry on the photographer because they can't necessarily go correct the assistant in front of the client because then that makes the client start worrying. So it's, you gotta, it's just assisting is almost like being a photographer in some sense because you have to know enough to do the job so that your photographer can trust you.
Well, and let's face it, most of the time you're doing an assistant work to learn and to grow. And so often today we think, I just show up, I'm the assistant. But if you're really serious about being an assistant and growing in your photography or whatever, you need to almost be more versed about what you're shooting than the guy that's leading it that you're assisting for, so that you can think beforehand of what's going on. You can help them out, but also you can show that person that you're worth having around. Because what you really want to do is not just assist for them one time, but you want to then create a relationship where you're assisting over and over again. And then through being with him, you're going to be able to get to do more things.
Yeah. And they've got to know that you have their back, that you're there looking out for them, not yourself. And a good assistant will kind of, whenever you're first setting up a shot, keep looking at the picture and see how the lighting looks and see if you need to make any adjustments. And that's one of those things that, after time working with a photographer, you kind of get to know. But, you have to know what it is they're looking for and be able to anticipate that the light needs to be turned up or down or moved or whatever before they even ask. And that's, I think that was one of the main questions that they asked on Google Plus yesterday, was asking, like, what makes a good assistant? And that's really what it is being able to anticipate the photographer's next move and request and say, I've already done that. I've already taken care of that. And when they know that you're on top of it like that, then they're like, oh, well, cool, he's got it. I can just worry. I can focus on interacting with the subject rather than is the light firing or not. So,
Dave Clayton said this great. He said, in all seriousness, Scott has admitted that he can't be Scott without somebody like Brad around. And I think that's a great compliment, because Scott really does rely on you and need you because you were that valuable an assistant. And I want to say kudos on TV.
Thank you.
Well done. But I also like this question that says, I lost it. It said, what happens if the person that's leading, you're the assistant, and you see them taking a crappy photo? Do you step in and help, or what do you say? Because then what if you see, I'm assisting for you, Brad, and I see you really messing up the shot. Do I come in and say something?
I think you have to say something in a way that isn't undermining their authority, I guess, for lack of a better word, but it's not undermining them, but saying, hey, I noticed that this picture is overexposed, or whatever it is that's making it a bad picture. Hey, I noticed this. Is that a bad thing? What do I need to do? Do you want me to leave it alone? Or are you still working on it? Because sometimes they may just be playing around and testing something out. But yeah, you say something, because if you don't, then it's your butt that noticed it and didn't say anything. And then, because I've had that happen before, I've noticed, oh, well, I noticed that, but I thought you were doing this. And they're like, no, why didn't you say something? I didn't know that. I'm not even looking at the shot. I'm looking at the subject. I'm not seeing what's coming in on the computer or looking at the back of the camera every shot. So yeah, you say something for sure, but you do it in a way that is, hey, just FYI, I noticed this. Is this good? Is this bad? Just let me know.
You know what? I'm noticing a trend whenever we're talking about photography or any of these things. It really does come down to communication, relationships, and character. It's crazy that you actually have to judge how you're going to communicate, because it also depends on what kind of shooter you have that you're being assistant for, and what kind of personality they have and what kind of relationship they have.
Yeah.
Like when you were working for Joe, after a year or two, you could walk up and say, hey, Joe, did you see that? But if it's your first time assisting somebody, you have to definitely be very circumspect about what you say.
Yeah.
And also, if you know that the person that you're assisting is a little bit sensitive, you got to be extra sensitive.
Mm-hmm. And, I've spoken to other assistants or had worked with them on other jobs or whatever, and have said, hey, is this kind of what you were expecting, or is this similar to how you would work with such and such? And they've said, no, if I did what you're doing, he would have told me to go away or whatever. So you have to get to know the photographer and their style of communication, personality, everything. And that's, I think why I get along so well with Scott and Joe both is we all have stupid senses of humor, and we're all goofy, and we can get along with that on set, and it's generally speaking pretty relaxed and low stress environments. But you also have to know when all of a sudden it becomes a stressful environment and react accordingly. So.
Kevin said, it depends on whether you have permission from the photographer to assist in that way.
Yeah.
Taking crappy shots is essential to a successful shoot. Respectfully, God help the assistant that jumps in and tries to fix something I'm doing in front of the client.
Exactly.
That's a great point.
Yeah, it's all about client expectation management too, because that's usually what I'll do. Like if I were on a shoot with Joe and he did something or whatever, I would go and literally just go kind of stand beside him and whisper in his ear. I wouldn't be like, stop the shoot, something's wrong, because of course that's going to mess with the client's mind and go, this photographer doesn't know what he's doing. Like, why are we hiring him? So yeah, you say something, but you do it, like I said, in a respectful manner, and you do it quietly.
Well, at the right time.
At the right time.
Yeah, because that's a great way not to be an assistant for somebody,
yeah.
again, is if you make them look bad in front of the client, or even sometimes it might not even be the client, but the model. If you help
Absolutely.
the model feel like the person doesn't know what they're shooting, then you have just dug a hole for your photographer to get the right response, the right look from the model. And you can kill a shoot just by the wrong word or the wrong attitude when you're there as an assistant.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard Joe say the main job of a photographer is to project confidence. You would think, take a good picture, it's project confidence. Why? Because if you project anything other than confidence, it's going to affect how your subject and client think about you. And he said, I can't tell you how many times I've been freaking out in my head, but you would never know it on the outside. So, you find little ways to make adjustments and to basically stall until you figure out what you're going to do, because, you can take the picture and go, holy crap, this looks terrible. But you don't say that. You go, oh, that's great. We got to make one little adjustment. Hey, let's do this, let's do that. And while you're doing that, whether it's actually affecting the picture or not, you're just in your mind going, okay, what have I got to do to make this right, to make this a great picture? So it's finding those little tricks like that to make your way to a great picture and project confidence rather than, being like just freaking out because something's wrong.
Yeah, sorry, I had to laugh at Captain Dave made a great comment, which I will not repeat, but that's nice. Let's jump back to a couple of these comments. Monaco Javier said, do you think, and this is really to you, do you think it's easier if you're nervous about being the guy in the spotlight to get into alternate forms of photography like shooting concerts? It seems like you're not interacting with the subject or worrying about lighting, so you can just concentrate on making great images.
Well, I'll be honest. The reason that I got into concert photography was this could come out sounding bad, but I do not mean it this way if it does. Whenever I first started working here for Scott, I literally came straight from working with Joe, and Joe knows that he's got an intense schedule, and I needed to have a little me time. And so for the first little bit that I was working here, like I was here doing this job, but I wasn't doing anything creative outside of it. So after a year, and Scott noticed that he actually brought me into his office one day and was like, dude, are you okay? Is there something that I'm doing or that I need to do for you, or like, are you okay? And I was like, I'm fine. Why? And he was like, because you don't seem like yourself. And I was like, he was like, I was like, honestly, I think it's because I haven't been shooting anything. I haven't been, I've been doing the job, but I haven't been doing anything else. And so I was like, I got to do something. And I've always enjoyed going to concerts from the time I was in high school. And so I was like, well, I could try to shoot concerts because that way I don't have to pay to get in anymore. So that's how I got into it, was that. And I think that that gave me an outlet that was a creative outlet. It was energetic as all get out for most of the shows. And, luckily with the help of Alan Hess and some other people, I've been able to develop a pretty decent portfolio over the past few years. And now that I've done that, I'm going to continue doing it, but that's why I'm kind of trying to branch more over into portrait photography and do that kind of stuff because...
Well, concert photography is the easiest type of photography, and it pays a lot of money, doesn't it?
No, not so much. Right, Alan?
Well, that's what Alan said. Oh, so you're saying concert photography is easy?
Man, no, it's not because it was easy, just because it was a great creative outlet. It's difficult because if it weren't, there wouldn't be a book on it, So I'm not saying it's easy, but it was something that I was able to do that didn't require one-on-one interaction, I guess. In some ways, as a form of photojournalism, you just show up and whatever's there is there, and you make the best pictures you can from it. But yeah, that's kind of so. Is that a good way to kind of get in? Does that answer Monica's question very well, or?
Yeah, I think for you, it's talking more about your heart and that it was something that you followed. It wasn't necessarily, I'm running away from the spotlight, but more I'm running into the place that feeds my soul.
Yeah.
And that's good. I love the question that comes in after this is, when do you know it's time to walk away? As an assistant, when do you decide, okay, I've finished being assistant, now it's time for me to spread my wings and go out on my own?
Well, I think honestly, that is different for every single person because there are plenty of people out there who are just assistants, not just, but like that's all they ever want to do is be an assistant. So that there are career assistants out there. Most of them are going to be in New York or LA because kind of hard to make a living in the middle of the country when it's not the photo hotspots. But I think that it becomes a natural progression. It's one of those things that when you're assisting. And this, I don't know if it's still this way because, I'm not in the industry, so to speak, as much as some other people, but I know the kind of the standard way, path of an assistant to photographer would be, you're working for a photographer that gets all these different jobs, but then they have a client that has a shoot that they need to have done, but they don't have the budget to hire the photographer you're working for, so they'll hire somebody that's a little cheaper. And the photographer will say, well, my assistant can do that sort of stuff. So you start off doing those, less expensive jobs, but it's giving you a little extra income. And then as you do more and more of those, it helps you kind of make your way into being a full-time photographer. So that's kind of one of the natural progression that I've seen from other people. So, yeah.
That's great. Okay, we've got to take a little break.
Yep.
And then when we come back, we're going to talk about a few extra things, and we're going to have a contest and all that good stuff. So make sure you stick with us. We'll be right back.
Hey folks, Moose here. A little birdie told me you want to learn wildlife photography. We're going to talk about everything from the basics. How do you find critters? What brings them in? I'm going to cram in more biology in this program than you could probably imagine. Because when you take that biology and combine it with that technology, the camera stuff, you come back with great images. What works for background, what works for exposure, the incredible, most important secret, the perch. We're going to talk about camera settings, we're going to talk about flash settings, we're going to talk about camera placement, we're going to talk about short lenses, long lenses. I'm going to help you incorporate it to wherever you live, be it in the middle of an island, in the mountains, the desert. Yep, I'm going to invite you to come to my home, my office, spend some time, learn some of my friends and neighbors how to take the best portrait of them possible. This is an exclusive you're going to see only on Kelby Training, so come along into the great jungle of my backyard.
Mad scramble. What's that link? What's going on? No, stop the camera. All right, well, we're back, and we need to definitely say thank you so much to a couple of our sponsors, and one of them is MPix. We love MPix, and they've just come out with a great new app for your phone, and it is called, I couldn't remember it.
Tap to print.
Tap to print.
Yes.
I was going to say click to print. It's great. Nancy swears by it, and, you know, all the French people love it. But the thing is, Matt and I talked about it a couple weeks ago. You capture so many memories in your phone nowadays, and if you were to lose that phone, drop that phone, something happened, you would lose all those memories. Well, now with MPix,
It just added square prints too.
it just added square prints, according to Nancy. I had to
that's
figure
like-
that one
so
out
like
right
for
there.
Instagrammers?
Now you can Instagram to your heart's content, and you just the interface is great. You can go in, edit, send it off, and it's cheap, and you just take care of those pictures.
You get prints from MPix.
You get prints
Yes.
from MPix, and they are there. And no longer do you have to worry about getting everything off your phone. It's just so simple and easy.
Yep. And then, not really a sponsor so much, but today on Scott's blog, we had a guest blog from Seth Resnick, and he talks all about, that's him on the ice there, he talks all about keywording in Lightroom. So if you ever had any questions, any need to know stuff, I read through and I learned a bunch of stuff that I didn't know. I didn't know that you could exclude keywords on export and all this stuff. But anyway, so go over to scottkelby.com and check that out today if you want to know anything about keywording in Lightroom. Very informative stuff.
Okay, and Photoshop User Magazine, if you get this was a special request from the video department. If you got this one, this is a great cover picture from Chuck Ubele. I kill his name. Yeah, you just have to read it. He is one of our Guru winners, and this is a cover. And also, on Friday, if you go to the NAP website, he's going to have a written tutorial about how he made this image. But people want to know, is this me in the picture? No, it is not. This is some other handsome individual. It is Chuck?
Yeah.
Okay, this is Chuck. Chuck is a good-looking man, if that's the case. He is hot. Okay, so also, real quick, we were talking about, we've got some things that we want to talk about.
Yeah.
We get to some, we don't get to some, but talk about wedding photography, children photography, and I've got this thing sitting up here. Nowadays, if you're a child portrait photographer, we've got several things coming out on the market. Tether Tools has one. This is Eye Candy. These are great. These are just phenomenal. You're able to attach them to your camera, and now you can play something while you're taking a picture of the children. It gets their attention here looking at the camera. No longer do you have the mom or whatever dancing behind there.
Holding up the stuffed animal.
And so that's just a little quick blurb to say, hey, there's stuff out there now that is going to make your stuff much easier to do. I think this is phenomenal. This Eye Candy, and then there's Tether Tools that has one.
This is not that, but this is actually a stand from Tether Tools. Works with their Wally system if you want to make your iPad look like a little iMac kind of thing. And then somebody asked about my Mexico story.
Yeah. Somebody asked, what's up with Mexico?
That's a whole, if you want to know my sad saga of what happened to me on my first big job with Joe in Mexico, we'll put up a link in the show notes because that would just take too long to tell here. But it's a heartbreaking tale of sadness and bad stuff happening to me, more than you would ever want to think could possibly happen. Whenever I wrote a guest blog, is the link I'm going to send you, but whenever I first wrote the guest blog for Scott's blog, it was when I kind of first started working here. I wrote it all up and sent it to Matt and said, hey, can you give this a look before I post? I just want to get a second set of eyes on it. And the next day he came in and just walked into my office and just looked at me and was just like, dude, I thought that I was just going to skim over it and kind of tell you that it sounded good. But whenever I couldn't skim, I started reading it and I was like, well, I'll finish the rest later. I'll stop at this point. And he said that he couldn't stop reading it because he's like, there's no way this can get any worse. But it kept getting worse. So I'll put the link up to that on the show notes. It's just bad. But
Couple questions, Monaco. Yes, you could probably use this for pets if you put the right thing up. The thing I like is you probably, if you're a child photographer, you'd probably have some great stuff on your camera, but most of the time your parents are bringing their kids in to shoot. Have them hand you their phone and put it on here, because I'm sure they would have whatever's their kids like on that. Also, it'd be a great way to do, RC's used one for like a Google Hangout to do, they have
the photo walk.
The photo walks, to be able to record with your phone while you're shooting. So that's just a little tip to throw in there.
Yep. I think one of the things we wanted to end with was, I think it was Kevin Halliburton yesterday said, you should talk about things you're thankful for in the industry. So Pete, what are some things you're thankful for in the industry, since this month is Thanksgiving later?
Ooh, what am I thankful for in the industry? I'm thankful for people like you, Brad. Oh. Did you ever know that you're my hero?
Don't do that.
What I am really thankful for is that I'm trying not to pay attention, but I keep having to. I'm watching that here too. Joe, I'm watching you too. You're bad. What I'm thankful for is there is a great group of folks out there that are really committed to bettering the people around them. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm a teacher at heart. You're a teacher at heart. We really do have the desire to help people get better. And what I'm really thankful for is there is a group of folks around.
Sorry, I just saw the screen.
Stop looking at my screen. Stop with the glue. We really are some neat guys. And some of y'all are actually in here. Most of you are not. Dave Clayton, not you. Alan Hess, not you. Kevin, you have issues. But there's some neat people out there that really do care about helping people get better at photography. Because at the end of the day, we really do want people to get better. So many people that I'd met in the past, especially when I was in fine arts school or whatever, you get those artists that are standoffish, and it's like, this is my art and all this stuff. Well, now it's becoming more of a, let me show you what I'm doing so that you can then become great too. And I'm not so much concerned about, I'm going to hold it all myself. Yeah. I'm thankful that there has been a change of heart in a lot of the people around us that just want to share.
And I'll say, I'm kind of thankful for the same thing. And there's no way that I would know any of the stuff that I know or be anywhere that I am without people like Pete just mentioned, and especially, Joe and Scott and, Alan, whether you like him or not. Alan's been a big help to me, and I definitely wouldn't even know where to start looking for people to ask for photo passes for concerts for without Alan. But yeah, I mean, just the people that I've been able to kind of surround myself with, even people my own age that are also just kind of starting out in the industry. It's just, I think a couple weeks ago I was up at Photo Plus, and I was just kind of overwhelmed at how many people I can actually call friends that are really just caring people and loving people, and want to just kind of share and be cool and hang out. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was just thinking the caliber and character of people that come through here. Just my thankfulness of being able to meet these folks. Photoshop world, one of the greatest things about it is to be able to get to hang out with some of the legends and some of the upcoming legends, but there's hardly anybody I go, I don't want to hang out with that person, because one of the things Scott does is he brings together people with like hearts and minds, and it's just a great place to be.
Yep, so that's stuff we're thankful for.
And now we will sing Kumbaya and ride off into the sunset.
Have a little tear running down the cheek.
Okay.
So contest giveaways.
Nancy's reminding us of the contest. Way to keep us on track, Nancy.
All right, so we're going to give away, once again, all access backstage pass to Concert Photography by Alan Hess and his Night and Low Light Workshop book.
Nice.
Both signed by Alan and delivered from Alan.
There you go. Yeah, so we're not going to touch that. It's all going to come from Alan. So if you don't get your book, it's Alan's fault.
And the onOne Perfect Photo Suite 7 from onOne software.
Just came out last week, and it's great, and we're going to give you one of those.
So normally we would say, Nancy, where can they go to enter for the contest? But she's not even mic'd. So go to kelbytv.com/contest, pick the grid from the show drop-down thingy there, and enter in your info, and you will be entered to win the prizes. But you might want to make sure you state which prize you want so that you don't wind up with one that you don't. Not that anybody would not want either of these prizes, because they're both awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
So, Pete, where can people find out more about you?
Probably the easiest place besides the NAP website. I'm there every day. I'm helping moderate. I'm keeping track of things in there, so you can definitely reach me over at the NAP website. If you are a NAP member, make sure you send me a friend request, and then you can send me direct messages. But you can also go to petegplus.com and check me out on Google+. That's where I will do a lot of my posting and stuff like that.
Cool.
And how about you?
If you want to find out more about Brad Moore, you can go to notbradmoore.com because that's a different photographer. You can go to his site.
You're landscape shooting.
Yeah. I bet there's another photographer named Brad Moore. He's out in California, and we've actually emailed back and forth a little bit. He's a good guy. But
okay. That's just
not
wrong.
a landscape photographer.
Alan and Dave Clayton, that's just wrong.
But you can go to bemoorevisuals.com, BMOORE, visuals.com. Or you can find me at bradgplus.com. I'm on Twitter at bemoorevisuals. I have a Facebook account, but I don't really use it that much, so don't worry about going to Facebook. But I think that's it. Do you have anything else you want to share, Pete?
No, I think we're done. We want to get out of here.
For the first time in history, I'm looking at the clock here. It's 3 minutes till 5. We're going to end early. Meredith is in the control room going, yay! She didn't leave a light on for her dog. Can you believe that?
Man, what kind of person is she?
Bad, terrible
You
person.
are an evil person,
Just kidding.
Meredith.
All right, guys, thank you so much for coming and joining us today. We hope that you enjoyed the C-list version of the grid.
Maybe
come back
plus.
next week. Hey, who's on the show next week? Matt and Glenn Dewis.
Wow.
Glenn Dewis.
I'm excited.
is here
Glenn
next
coming
week.
all the way from the UK to be with us. I'm excited about that.
What?
Nancy, what's up?
Bad just happened.
Figured out who Joe is.
Who's Joe?
Joe McNally?
Is it really? Joe, I'm going to beat you.
Is Joe in there?
Joe has been making some awesome comments.
Is it McNally?
I'm assuming.
Oh,
This
geez.
just in, maybe Joe. If not, the other Joe, whoever is not Joe, has issues as well.
Okay,
And on that note, we're going to
leave before it
Guys,
gets
thank
any
you so
worse.
much for joining us. We really do appreciate y'all being here, even though, we are the D-plus
C-list.
team.
Yeah.
We're excited to be here with you and share this time with you. Y'all make sure to take care. Go out there, have some fun, be creative, and have fun shooting.
What he said.
Woohoo!
Bye.
Bye, guys.
This week's episode of The Grid is sponsored by MPix. Shoot today, upload tonight, we ship tomorrow. Manfrotto, imagine more. onOne software that gets you back to shooting. Adorama, more than a camera store. Tiffin, helping create the world's greatest images. Peach Pit Press, publishers of technology books, ebooks, and videos for creative people. Epson, exceed your vision. Expo Imaging, Rogue Flash Benders for speedlight enthusiasts. Nix Software, photography first. And B&H Photo, the professional source.